picture perfect.
Is this, their last kiss, or is this, a goodbye?
Legendary photographer Annie Leibovitz is in Bentonville. We were the only cameras allowed to walk and talk with Annie as she opens a new exhibit at Crystal Bridges.
Red carpet fun. We crashed the pre-party as our town welcomed one of the greatest photographers of a generation.
I'm just thrilled to have Annie down here.
And museum love. We hear from Annie about why Bentonville is so amazing. That and more right now on Downtown Now.
Hi, and welcome to a very special edition of Downtown Now. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes focused on a very legendary artist. I'm Dana Schlegenhaft.
And I am Aaron Nolan, and I want to be fully transparent with you guys. We did not intend to make this show 30 minutes all about the great Annie Leibovitz, but we had an opportunity to spend time with her, and we knew at that moment we had no choice. This show is all about her being in Bentonville. Let's go inside the exhibit at Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. Annie Leibovitz At Work is a show built by the artist herself. Throughout her career, Annie has taken pictures of history-making moments and portraits that have shaped pop culture. In addition to her first works, you'll also see some of her latest works, and the show will evolve. Annie plans to continue to take pictures and post them inside this gallery hall right here in Bentonville, Arkansas.
And before we step into our conversation with the legendary Annie Leibovitz, we want to take a look back at an esteemed career that stretched over 50 years. Whether or not you know her name, you know the photographs that she's made famous. One by one, iconic images line the walls at Crystal Bridges, serving as a collective portrait of modern life. Each one meticulously crafted by the artist, the photographer, the historian, Annie Leibovitz.
So when they walked off, they started to walk off, I was kind of left there, and sometimes it's good to not be in the center, be on the side. And, and then I saw this and turned it and photographed it. There's no magic carpet ride, it's work, it's just work.
Her career began only 2 years after buying her first camera. She was still a college student in 1970 when Annie approached Rolling Stone magazine with a few of her images. 3 years later, she was named chief photographer at the well-known national publication. For a decade, Annie captured 142 covers and published photo essays. Her assignments included the wild 1975 Rolling Stones tour, President Nixon lifting off from the White House lawn for the final time after resigning the Oval Office, and the final moments between a Beatle and his bride. A visual memorial snapped just hours before the world lost the musician in a shocking act of violence.
Annie has this incredible vision. She has proven time and time again that she has this very clear idea of what she wants to do, what she wants to say.
Following her departure from Rolling Stone, Leibovitz shot for Vanity Fair and later Vogue, spending minutes with a legendary British monarch.
This is something that the work continues to be alive for her, and I think even once it goes up on the wall, even once it's on the screens, there's still an understanding that it has a very good chance of evolving and changing.
An immersive approach to art.
She took me through all of her clothes in her closet.
Forming relationships while capturing powerful portraits of actors, musicians, athletes, and political figures. Annie Leibovitz, quietly, making loud statements through moments of vulnerability and strength. Now, not only is Annie very good at what she does, and that's an incredible understatement.
It really is.
But she's also captured pop culture moments that we know and love through the years.
And now we get that really cool opportunity. Dana, you were in there. We had the chance to talk to Annie Leibovitz walking through this exhibit hall. And I got to be honest with you, we laughed. I may have shed a tear.
You did.
There was a lot of emotion going in there. And I want to read a quote from Annie because it kind of sums up our experience with her. When I say I want to photograph someone, what it really means is that I'd like to get to know them. Dana, I get chill bumps saying that. Enjoy this conversation.
Are you a storyteller? Are you an artist? Are you a historian? Or are you a photographer?
I would like to think there's a little bit of all that. You know, you can't help, if you're doing this over 50 years, you can't help but be very interested in history. And then, you know, looking back at my early days, I was in places that, now I had no idea, being with Tom Wolfe for Apollo 17 when he started to write the right stuff, to be with Hunter Thompson, on the campaign trails when, he was working, on his, and there was that creation of gonzo journalism. To be in these places that you can't believe, looking, it's important to look back. That's how you know how to go forward. You become very aware of history. I sort of feel like I'm a little bit of, Karsh of Ottawa, where I just am just, taking portraits and decided, a few years back, there were so many tempting things like video and, journalism, so many other avenues I could have gone down. And I realized I was going to stay steady. Yeah. And that it felt, I know on some level it felt outdated or kind of like, an old idea. But I felt like I could take it all the way through to the end of my life. So, and that brings the history in, because then you have this kind of sense of history. It's a shame about this because this is not really in any. It's kind of a rough chronological thing, but not really. It's just.
Well, that's why I wanted to start backwards.
Yeah.
Because we'll work our way that way.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. This became more visual. It became more of a way to get from those rooms over to the screens, which are more in the last 5 years and the last year.
Does it ever get old?
No.
Looking at your work, and I mean,
No.
let's walk this way, because I mean, there's a point that I want to get to as a big fan of music, but does it ever get old to remember these photos and these images that you've taken?
I mean, I have the opportunity to look at this. Like when I do something like this, or I do a book, and that's where the books are really important.
For me, this is that image, right? The Yoko.
Right.
And
I mean,
and
as a Beatles I go in and out about its overplay. And John was insistent that he really wanted to be with Yoko, and so we just brainstormed. And I said, on the cover of Double Fantasy, they're kissing, and I said, romance is not dead. Let's do something like that. And literally just, my original idea was that Yoko would be nude as well, because being nude was not such a new thing for them. Anyway, they ended up, Yoko didn't want to take her clothes off, so I said, okay, go ahead, leave your clothes on. And then we had a Polaroid, and John looked at it and said, oh my God, that's our relationship, that really is. So the harrowing part of this is that hours later, on the very same day, John was killed.
I've heard that story, and I heard you tell it yesterday, but I thought about this sitting here. For you, at an emotional level, I think it was 5 hours later, what hit you, and what was the response from this photo?
I was a mess, and if you get me talking about it too much, I start to. Right now I well up, because I go back to it, and I couldn't believe it. I got a call from Jan Winter saying Jan's description had been taken to Roosevelt Hospital. So I went over to the hospital and waited like everyone else outside to hear, and it was John. And it was just, it threw me. I mean, for, a good year, it really was confusing to me. But that, if you're a portrait photographer and you photograph people, they live and they die. And there's a lot of people in this room who aren't with us anymore. And so that even feeds the history. Sure. And it makes you want to be more responsible. The story changes. Now suddenly is this, their last kiss, or is this, goodbye. Or Yoko was amazing. I went to see Yoko within the next week, and wanted to make sure she was okay about running it, and she was perfectly fine, and she was encouraging, and she's a great artist in her own right, and she was very much believe in supporting the artist.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's beautiful.
No,
and
thank
I
you.
think that's amazing. I want to get to the Stones now. If we keep doing music,
yeah.
right, we've got to go to
Well, the Stones don't
your
come-
time with the Rolling Stones.
But the Stones don't come out of anywhere. The frame here is shows the outside of the negative, and it is completely. The thing that has not exactly saved me, but I've never ever strayed from the idea that I'm a photographer, and that's what I'm there doing. In fact, Keith Richards used to say, I would be at the foot of the stage, and he would say, you would never have any emotion. You would never be like, like smiling or anything. It was just like deadpan. I mean, I just literally.
Got no satisfaction? Sorry, I had to.
No. I was so interested in the photography. I was interested in
That's
taking a good
good,
picture, and I was focused on that. So I went on this tour. I went in 1975. Mick Jagger asked me if I would be the tour photographer. Robert Frank, who I admired and was a god to me, was the photographer for the 1972 tour. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try to make something out of this, and I just documented it pretty seriously. But I didn't really look at the work, until years later.
Really?
There wasn't. I mean, I was hired as their publicity photographer, and nothing ever got out. I mean, I started off in the daytime. I had tennis lessons set up at every hotel, which I ended up turning into completely a nocturnal person at night. That's when they were up. And I mean, a rock and roll tour is not real. It's like you're speeding through, through time and space so fast.
I can't reiterate it enough to those watching. Dana, you and I have talked about it. That conversation with Annie, walking through that exhibit, talking about John Lennon, I was tearing up myself. I will never forget those moments.
It's a very special Bentonville moment, only in Bentonville.
There you go, only in Bentonville.
And Annie's going to tell us a little more about why she loves this beautiful city. That's in just a bit. And also, we hit the red carpet.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah, that's next. Welcome back to a very special episode of Downtown Now. We're spending the entire 30 minutes celebrating Annie Leibovitz and the exhibition she has right now at Crystal Bridges. She also tells us how much she loves Bentonville.
It's not hard to imagine that when people come to Bentonville, they love this city, Annie Leibovitz included. Part 1 was all about her most famous works. Part 2 is about this special place. And here is our downtown conversation.
When I knew we were going to present it, I was very, very aware with my visits here, the throngs of classrooms and students and young people coming through. And that is so wonderful. And in some cases, the first time a child has been to a museum. So I just, and museums are kind of, they can be very stuffy places. This place has it down. Well, first of all, they come for free. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible, and it's very straight up. It's not, that's what it is. How they support it, how the Waltons support it, and but gearing towards the children and the power of the imagination. I was very aware that I designed the show or set the show with that in mind. The person who's
we were just talking about walking through this, and it never gets old.
he was asking if it was old for me. So I was like trying to figure that out. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's like walking through your diary.
Yeah, it's like a memoir feel for sure. I mean, and because you realize you were never out of the picture. This is something you realize as you're older, that you're really part of what you're doing, and so it becomes very personal, actually, the work in general, and. Especially the choices of the people we're photographing now, or the opportunity to do that.
And this was totally impromptu that Olivia, that you were here, but you've got to talk about the artist being in Bentonville,
Oh, yeah.
Arkansas.
You know, wait.
Because
Wait,
last night.
I have to say, I do think she was being really nice last night because she said, Annie just did the rooms. It was like I was like walked in like, okay, here's what we're doing. You know. And you were being very kind. But it is part of the installation. I guess you're right about that. You know?
It is, because the title is Annie Leibovitz at Work, and I think what you really take away with is Annie's process. You know, this is a little insight into her mind and how it comes together, how these images were constructed. Thank you for being
by.
here.
We'll steal Annie now, and we'll keep walking this way.
Good. Have a good day. Really, thank you for everything. Olivia, we'll be talking.
Okay.
Now it feels so much better, like other side of the last time. So we're
It
good.
has to be so exhausting. It's such a creative push, and I mean, it's just think about how many intimate moments you've had with everybody you're looking at. Like, it's a lot of energy. Great. Catch you soon. Bye.
The story you told it yesterday about being in a boat with Alice Walton.
Oh yeah.
And how that photograph that we'll show here and during the piece came to be.
She started talking about the lake, and you could tell her eyes would start to light up, and she would talk about jumping into the water, and it was like 12 degrees, you know, like that she loved to go swimming and driving the boat, and so I asked if I could go out there, and she said sure, and we did do pictures out there. I was supposed to jump in the water with her, but we never got that far, and so I have a picture of her driving the boat, and she looks amazing, and I may actually add that to the show at this point. I did choose the picture of her more solemn in the family house with it's more of a more serious portrait.
Yeah.
And I do like that because she's after all said and done, you know, this is something we wouldn't be here if it was not for her. And I admire her so much for her ideas about what she wanted to do here.
Well, I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, Annie, but she's put Bentonville on the map when it comes to the art world.
Oh,
Do you agree?
definitely. It's a big destination, and you know, it's not. There are people who are going to come. Actually, what's interesting about it is a museum. When they come, they spend longer in here. You know, which is not heard of, you know, in a museum. Like, you know, people just usually hit and run in a museum, and because they know they're here,
Yeah.
it's a full experience. And everyone, you know, you rent a bike and get going, and you know, there's so many wonderful restaurants, and it's a great walking experience. My niece and Karen Mulligan went out to the James Turrell, you know, sculpture where they watched the sunrise this morning at 6:30. There's so many wonderful things to do here. So it definitely is a destination. It's like a Marfa. It's going to be, you know, it already is kind of on the map. You know, it's definitely on the map.
You know, that relationship with Annie Leibovitz and Alice Walton seems to me, and you pointed this out, it's going to be a friendship for years to come.
We made a lot of friends at the party at Crystal
did
Bridges.
We crashed the party.
We did. And we're going to show you that red carpet extravaganza that's next.
When one of the greatest artists of a generation comes to town, what do? You throw a party.
And we brought our television cameras, the only television cameras that were able to access this red carpet. Check this out.
Your hometown, an event like this, a legend like Annie Leibovitz, talk a little bit about this experience and knowing that this is right in your backyard.
Yeah, we're so excited to be here this evening, and it is incredible that this is happening in Bentonville. This place has come so far, and it's got such a bright future.
I want to ask your feeling about one of the most well-renowned photographers and artists ever here in Bentonville. How does that feel opening this day?
Oh, it's tremendously exciting, and I just think this exhibition is perfect for what we're trying to do at Crystal Bridges, which is really to welcome all, and we mean all, to celebrate the American spirit in a setting that unites the power of art with the beauty of nature.
What Miss Alice has done with this place, and to bring somebody like Annie and her work in to celebrate a great American artist at a great American institution
I don't think you can get any better than that.
With downtown Bentonville, what has your experience been like?
Oh my God, it's so sweet. I mean, we're one of the first people at the coffee place in the morning, and they treat us really well, and we've eaten dinner in several places, and it has such a wonderful feel here. It's just great.
Dana, I don't like asking for permission.
Makes me nervous.
I break the rules, I ask for forgiveness. I even ask Annie a question that no journalist should ask. Look at this.
Well, I'm going to break protocol here for a minute, and you can tell me no, but I think I need to take a selfie with you.
Come on. Okay, I'm glad you're taking it because I'm terrible at this.
That's it. That's perfect. Annie, thank you so much.
Thank you. That was good. Here, give me a hug.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this special episode of Downtown Now. We want to know what stories you'd like to see on an episode in the future. Shoot us an email at the email address on your screen.
Also, come see this exhibit. It is extremely special. With that in mind, we'll see you next week, right here on Downtown Now, 10:30, Sunday mornings on KFSM.
The sun is 93 million miles away. The least we can do is give it a warm welcome each morning.